Hey everybody, and welcome to another interview show on the Shadow Files podcast. We have three very special guests coming to us all the way from Rhode Island in New York. I have been promised by these three ladies that we are not going to be prepared for what comes next. So all I can say to everybody is sit back, brace yourselves, and come on this adventure with us, because I've got no idea what's about to happen. When we get warned that, hey, it's going to be an absolute blast of a show, I have no idea what to expect at all. These three ladies are paranormal investigators, and they have a wealth of experience between them, and two of them are actually blood-related sisters, and the third member is a soul-related sister, so I think they're going to have a lot of stories to tell, and it will be interesting. So come with us on this journey and enjoy the Shadow Files experience. So hello Soul Sisters, how are you guys? I've promised everybody there's going to be a wild night tonight, so it's all on you to prove me right. Would you like to introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about your group?
So I'm Kim, and then go ahead, Katie.
I'm Katie, aka Swirl.
I'm Michelle. I am Kim's sister.
She's sister
Adopted.
as well. So
We are gonna ask. Are we allowed to ask questions? Are we allowed to ask questions about the nickname?
My personality is pretty squirrel, but I think you can tell it best, like with like the EVP.
So one of the first times we had met Squirrel a couple of years, no, actually it was like a year prior to when we really started hanging out. But we had gone to the Oliver house and we were doing some EVP work upstairs. And I got Squirrel in my recorder, and I was just asking questions. I'm like, "What did you like squirrels? You know, why would Squirrel come through? Like, what is it about Squirrel?" So I ended up going downstairs and talking to someone and replaying the EVP, and it was very clear. It was just Squirrel in a man's voice, like deep. So I ended up chatting with her later on, and come to find out, she plays with squirrels. She feeds them. Yeah. She had lost her dad. How many years prior?
13 years prior, like from that night.
But on her way there, she was praying for her dad to come through and to kind of just, I don't know, tell her that he's there,
yeah.
Right?
Like
so
a sign or something.
Yeah.
So that's when we actually started talking. It was funny, and then she started showing me these pictures of her feeding squirrels out in the backyard, how her dad used to always call her Squirrel. And when I played back the EVP for her, she started to tear up. She was like, "That's my dad's voice."
Yeah,
wow.
Like that raspy, like when he would make jokes, like that kind of voice. So it was just so crazy, because that was like one of our first conversations, like via text, right?
Yeah.
So,
And then we became a group. That was basically it. It was really weird.
The rest was history.
Okay, so
She also has squirrel brain, so there's that too.
So you would have all had an inkling that you're interested in the paranormal before, obviously, you came together. What got you interested in the paranormal to start off with?
Well, Kim and I grew up in a house that was, I don't know if you've ever seen the Poltergeist movie,
Mm-hmm.
the original.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad, but where we moved to, they dug up all of the graves, made a historical cemetery, and put houses in.
What, where
that
you
house
actually
was
lived?
Very haunted.
That really happened?
Yes,
Wow.
real. It was a new development, and this was 40 years ago, so things are a little more stringent now than they were then.
Mm-hmm.
But we would hear things running, we would have things getting thrown across the room, doors slamming open in our faces, tons of stuff would happen. And everyone that lived in this court, all the houses were haunted, because I used to babysit for them, and they would all say the same thing, that they were all haunted.
Wow.
Well, that's how we kind of got interested.
And
I was scared at the time, especially my sister, because she's younger than me. But
Got it. She admitted it.
Yeah, we won't go there because I'm the oldest as well.
Course.
How did you get the name? And I'm going to have to go with Squirrel because that's how you guys say it, but we would say Squirrel. How did you get into the paranormal? I'm sorry.
So for me, like, I was just always a weird girl, like, growing up. Like, I loved, like, Are You Afraid of the Dark and, like, the Goosebumps books and, like, so I was always intrigued by that stuff. But then for me, like, my moment was when I was, like, kind of waking up and, you know, like, when you're, like, you know you're alert and you can see everything in the room.
Yeah.
And then I thought my sister was in the doorway and, like, I heard her say, "Aren't we gonna have fun today?" And I'm like, "Leave me alone." And they know my sister. So I'm like, "Leave me alone." I'm still trying to sleep. And then, like, I go back to sleep and I wake up and, like, she wasn't even in the house. Like, it was like, so, but I saw, like, her silhouette. I heard her voice. So what is, like, doppelganger?
Doppelganger.
Yeah. So, like,
Minute.
so yeah, I called my mom, like, saying, like, "Where'd she go?" She was just here, and she's like, "No, I took her to work with me this morning." Like, so she wouldn't be there at, like, 9:20 or whatever the time was, like, on there. So I was like, "So what the hell did I see?" So like, as a kid, that's, like, terrifying though. Like, to be, like, I think it was, like, 8th grade, like, to see that and not know what it is. Like, so, and I also, like, messed with the Ouija board and got in a lot of trouble with my mom.
Oh.
Yeah, by myself.
Yeah, I'm
But yeah, so I was
guilty of
always
that.
like, so as I got older, I was, like, more interested in, like, just, like, those shows, like the TV shows and all that, and then started going to events, and that's where I met these girls.
And the rest is history, as they say. So, once you all got together, what was the first place you guys actually investigated as a team?
Like, was a team?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
What was our first place? Was that it was before USS Salem?
Yes, definitely before that.
Was it the Poe Museum? Like, where's that thing?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we did a private investigation
Yeah.
for someone in Pennsylvania, they had, like, a Poe gift shop. They were into all that. They did artwork and whatnot. And she also did some mediumship stuff that kind of went awry. So that was our first real investigation. It was actually pretty cool.
Yeah. We ended up finding that there was almost like a portal that she had kind of created in one area of her living room,
Yeah.
which was where she was doing all the readings. But I think she was practicing other things too, because she started to have a lot of other activity amongst the house and just like door slamming, seeing black figures in places. And so when she called us in, we kind of found those results, and then she didn't really want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's the busted. So, yeah. When you guys do an investigation, obviously, now from what I've heard in America, they're not real big on psychic type stuff and using mediums. And we were told that my team over here, because we do, we're kind of the odd ones out. But it sounds like you guys embrace that as well. But do you use a lot of tech as well as using your own senses and abilities?
Yes, we did both. She's the tech
I'm
girl.
the tech girl, yeah. So I like to, like, I actually do have a tool belt that I go around with.
Cool.
She has a ghost tool belt.
Yep.
That is awesome.
Amazing.
That is awesome.
And I hold, like, the things I know I'm going to grab for, like the millimeter, the K2. So I'm the one that usually does the sweep in the beginning.
Yep.
Just to check for, the EMFs, yeah. And then, like, we love those basic ones, right? Like the REM pods. And we don't, in the beginning, I felt like we were trying so much with the tech. And then I feel like as we're going along,
We backed off.
We backed off, yeah.
Yeah.
We've realized that we love more things. So, and as we've been doing this for 3-4 years together, we have honestly just started to, like, I've become even more sensitive than I ever was before, and things are starting to show themselves to me. I've had way more interactions than I've ever had in my entire life now that we've been doing this. So I think now we're not relying on the equipment. It's a nice, helpful tool.
Yep.
But most of it comes from us now.
That it's good that you say that, because one of the things I've always said, now we do residential cases, and then we'll go out to different locations and we'll do like a public thing. So people who are interested, we'll get them out and we'll throw them a few of the toys that light up and flash and buzz and do silly little things. and they feel like they're super excited. And, you know, as well as I do, a lot of that is very, you know, how's your father and stuff like that. But yeah, but one of the things I've always said,
even the apps on the phone.
yeah, one of the things I've always said, and I always say to people at the start, is always trust your own body, because your body is your greatest tool for picking up anything paranormal. Because obviously, if you get the goosebumps or the raise, that's picking up fluctuations in the EMF. You know, if you feel cold spots, you get that. And you generally get a feeling for a location, and you've got to trust your feelings. But as a paranormal investigator, you obviously need to try and validate that with something on the equipment. Now, saying that, we'll still try out all the new gear and stuff. I mean, I've got stuff behind me. I've got stuff under there. I've got a TARDIS full of it. But what I find is the old dowsing rods, they're pretty good, and that's about as old school as you can get. You know, and it's one step from using your senses and everything. And it's nice to hear that other people still do that, because when you watch all the TV shows, they tend to shut people down who are just using their senses. And I think it's one of the biggest points of all. And years ago with our psychic, she actually said she feeds off our interest, and she tries to open us up. But as we start to expand our skills, it helps her as well. And you do, like what you're saying, you start to feed off each other, and it does help you all out with this intuition side of things. So I'm interested to hear more about that and some of the cases where it has actually played a benefit to you guys.
Well, one of our most recent ones, which was pretty interesting. So it was a combination of using equipment and also our, you know, intuition and everything. But there was one room that we were all pulled to. So I left my REM pod, and it's kind of a little funky REM pod. So it looks like a Ouija on the top, right? And it's just cool looking. It's got an eye that changes for temperature, and then it has the antenna. So it does the normal REM pod stuff. If you touch it or go near it, it goes right? So certain things light up. But this room that we were pulled to, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave the REM pod in here, and we're gonna walk away. Oh, it was probably about a half hour later, we start hearing music playing, like a music box.
Mm-hmm.
And it was continuous. And I'm like, where is that coming from? We go into the room, and my REM pod is actually playing almost like Simon Says. Like, or you know how you used to play that game where you would do the doot, 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 and then you would copy it?
Yeah.
That's what it was doing, but it was playing this amazing music, and it did it all night. And then when we left there, I couldn't get it to do that.
Wow.
So actually, well, it went off once at the Airbnb.
When we went back to the haunted Airbnb we were staying at, we just put it on the table just to see, because it had never done this before. And after a little bit, we're talking about the investigation, and it starts playing. And I got up and I went, I'm sorry, you need to go back to the house. And I got like the sage spray, and we just asked it to kindly like go back to where it was, because that's where it needs to be.
Yep.
And it's never done it since.
Or before.
Yeah.
So it was really strange.
Wow.
We did talk to the guy. We were just at one of the Paracons, and we talked to the guy that I bought it from. I told him, and I showed him the video, and he goes, that is so odd. He goes, you actually have to take that apart, and you have to rewire it to actually make those sounds that you just got. So they manipulated it somehow.
Yep.
And I home afterwards, after she had saged it and I was trying it, nothing. So it's really strange. I could not get it to do it.
Yeah, we even tried, like, because, you know, I'm usually the one that's, like, trying to debunk the thing.
We
Like,
debunk.
So I'm always like, okay, like, especially when it comes to equipment, I'm like, let's try a fresh battery. Let's try, you know, turning it on and off. So we did all that, and it was still doing that at the Airbnb. So I was just like, I got nothing.
I got nothing.
Yeah. It's interesting that. Okay, we'll put it out there to everybody. Kim has spent some time in Perth, haven't you?
Yes.
Yes. Do you remember Fremantle?
Yes, actually.
I know you have an issue remembering some of the places around, but Fremantle you can't really forget.
Places, but I could look it up.
Yeah. Well, there's a place.
Here, so...
You go.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we had something similar to what you're talking about, but this was actually on somebody's phone, which was in their pocket at the time. Now, where I'm going with this is one of my one of my team members is actually related to Bon Scott, who is the late singer of the awesome band AC/DC. And Bon Scott is actually buried at Fremantle Cemetery. Now, we didn't actually go to his grave because that's sort of private, but there's a memorial for him on the corner. And we were there, and we were doing an EVP session there. And Jay, who's related, or his wife's related, they started talking. We actually asked him, we said to Bon Scott, what is your favourite of your AC/DC songs? And no word of a lie, I might have to beat what I'm going to say next, but his phone started playing basically an AC/DC song. So it was, he actually started singing the song in his pocket. You know, I can't remember which song it is now. It was one of their big ones. But yeah, that blew me away. And I've never heard of a phone doing that. You know, if you see somebody manipulating a phone, you can go, yeah, you're set it up to do that. But everybody had their K2s and their millimeters and all their different devices and things in their hands, and his phone just started going off in his trouser pocket. And that, you can't tell me that while we're at his grave and it's his relation, and then his phone starts playing one of his songs, that's not a coincidence. That, so things like that do happen.
No.
And you can't really explain it. So it's interesting. Now, moving on from there, you guys, I mean, in America, you have some of the best locations to go to. As you know, Australia, especially here in Perth, because we're so isolated, it's slim pickings. So we do more residential cases and things like that. But I've heard on the grapevine, okay, it might be from you guys, but that you've been to the Conjuring House.
Yes, we have multiple times.
It is an amazing location.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Regardless of what's going on right now, we're staying out of whatever is happening.
Yeah, we won't go into that. I mean, even here on the arse end of the world, we've heard about what's going on. So, yeah, we can stay out of that. We'll just talk about the good stuff. But how did you guys find it?
We live,
20 minutes.
yeah, I think I live 40 minutes away from it.
That's it. The show's over. We're not doing any more now.
We had never been there until a couple of years ago. We finally said, okay, we'll go. I mean, what do you want to know?
Well,
I got a really cool photo the last time we were there, but
no.
Oh,
First
that's what I sent you.
up, when you roll up, what is your first impression when you see this old cabin in front of you? What is the feeling you get before you even step inside?
Oh man, it draws you in.
It
It's
sucks you
so
in.
weird.
Yeah.
I mean, we went once thinking that would be it, and now we've been there probably 5 times. Like, we just have to keep going back. It, like, once you leave, you're like, I want to go back.
Do you find that?
weird obsession.
Yeah. Do you find that each time you go back, you get a little bit more out of the investigation?
Yes.
Yes. It's almost like
Do
you
tell.
know now. So when we went in the first time, I did my psychic sweep. I like to do that. I don't like to know. I mean, I know some stuff, but the movies have exaggerated.
Yeah.
They have made things up that didn't actually happen, or they changed it. But still, like, I went through, did my sweep outside, got the smells, got the feels. That place, we are convinced, has elemental energy, and that's what's driving the entire haunting. It's not the house. It's the actual land, and whatever has been there has been there a very long time.
And then there was also, like, King Philip's War was actually fought on that land, come to find out. So what they're unveiling now is that they're finding dead soldiers that have been buried there, or just their bones on the property.
Oh.
So it's been kind of like a little bit crazy. We've always gotten a lot of activity, which is nice. Yeah, we had a lot of crazy activity this last time.
Well, come on. This is the place to tell a little bit.
Okay. So not this time. The bush.
Oh,
Do you want
my
to tell me
God,
about
yeah.
the bush? This is gonna sound crazy, but
I tell people this story and the faces I get. The co-workers I tell, literally, they look like they're just gonna like admit me. but so we were there for an event 2 years ago. Was it 2 years? Or
It was probably 2 years.
2 years. And it was one of the overnight ones. So sit up, we're in the house, and then we'll go outside and do some some investigation out there. So we were out near the wall of that property where was it that tree?
It's the
hanging
the
tree.
hanging tree.
That's where a lot of the soldiers they've marked where they are. So that's where a lot of the bodies underneath have been found. That's where we were at the time.
Yeah. So like they were. So I always felt like we were being like they were distracting us to like do our pendulum, and I think we had the dowsing rods.
Mhm.
So we're all focused on this, and then in my peripheral, I'm looking at I remember there was a bush in the distance, and I swear it looked like it got a little bit closer. And I'm just like, okay, I'm probably tired. I'm just gonna keep looking at what we're doing. And then I do it again. I look over, and it got a little bit closer, and I'm just shaking my head like I'm not gonna say anything. And then it got really close. Like I felt like it was just like, and then so I started doing like I don't even know if I said anything. I think I was just like
tapping me.
You were like that, and I went, oh my god, where did that come from?
So I call her Doug. So I'm like Doug. and then she turns around and her face is like no, like we're going back in the house. And then you like turn around, you're like we're going. So they all noticed that the bush was a lot closer, and we just started running. Just who runs to the Conjuring house? Like, we ran to the Conjuring.
No one ever.
I didn't even look back because I felt like it was like.
But when we went back in, we sat at the kitchen, and all our equipment was going off everything.
Yeah.
It was saying some crazy, sometimes nasty stuff coming through. I think it was a phasma bot.
Yes, a phasma.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked up, and there were shadows flying by the windows outside. And I'm like, thank God we came in, because it doesn't feel. And it was about 3 a.m., which I don't always buy into that, but
No.
It was that time of night. So we finally doing our thing, checking the equipment. The lights were flickering. Things were just happening. And then all of a sudden, this was one of the freakiest things that ever happened to me. I'm sitting at the heads of the table. This mist started forming in front of my face. I've got people sitting next to me across the way, and like I'm looking, and it's really hazy seeing the girl at the other end. It starts to get all sparkly and weird, and it's like moving around, and now it's getting like it's right up to my nose, and I'm starting to get scared because me in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to get sucked into a portal. I kind of
Like it here.
but I don't want to go somewhere else. So I finally asked it. I was like, please, you need to back off because you're starting to scare me, and I don't want to have this kind of interaction with you, so please just back off. It actually moved back and dissipated. No one else saw it. We caught it on none of the cameras, and I swear to God, my eyes are good. I go to the eye doctor every year. There's nothing wrong. I mean, I could feel it. All my hairs were standing up. It was crazy. And after that, our equipment died down.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the saddest part was all our snacks were in the car, and I remember none of us wanted to go outside because of the bush. So I was like, oh no.
Draw straws, the unlucky one goes and gets the snacks.
We actually did that last time. It does. It's weird. The last time we were there, I took a picture of the bush. I think it was still daytime or maybe nighttime, and it looks like there's a face.
And it's got
Mongolia, I'm sure, but it's just a weird.
but the vines underneath.
It looked like a
it's like a
spine.
spine.
Yeah.
It's
the
bizarre.
way, the way this bush actually looks,
It's weird.
I think it's part of the elementals that are out there. So I think that bush was actually getting closer. And legit, we ran back into the Conjuring house.
Wow, that's
Oh
interesting.
my gosh.
And it's funny.
For me, that was the crazy. Like I can't explain this. Like I can't explain a moving bush.
What? All right. Yeah, I'm going to stop there because my mind takes me to some silly places with that kind of thing. But, I want everybody, this is going to be a mad episode and I don't know what's going to happen. So whatever goes out, goes out. So, but it's funny how you mention the elementals and things like that, because talking with Barry Fitzgerald not long ago, he's big on a lot of the elementals around, and I'm hearing it more and more these days. So do you think they're on the rise? Or they're certainly starting to let themselves be known?
No, I think it's more
us.
so like I think we're seeing more of it. So with all of the cameras, all of the Ring cameras, all of that stuff, I think we're also becoming more so like people that never ever believed are seeing things on their Ring camera that they're not manipulating, and they're going, oh my gosh, does this actually exist? So I think as far as elementals, they've always been here. It's
I
just
know
more
that,
so
yeah.
people are noticing.
There seems to be a lot more talk about them lately, and like you say, I'm not sure if people are starting to become more in tune with what's going on, despite the fact that everybody's becoming more tech dependent, which it sort of contradicts itself. But it's just I thought it'd be an interesting question.
I think it's the combination of we're using more tech. There's wireless everywhere now, so there's more energy for these things to pull from. And I think because more people are aware and talking about it, that it's actually out more to the forefront. Because I've always felt that. I'm a very woodsy person. I've always been into hiking, taking off by myself. I got little things running around my house and my yard. Like I see little guys running around, little shadows, but I've always been in tune with them. So I actually like the elementals. They don't freak me out. I actually like them, but a lot of people are scared. Because I guess they can go either way. From my understanding. Anyway.
Yeah, and it also depends.
One way. Now their elementals are just what they are.
Yeah, and it depends on your intent and what you're doing around them as to whether you tick them off or they just let you do what you're going to do. You know, it's like all things, I guess. They can be amused by some people and interested by others, and like people and not like people. So it's just an interesting thing, and I have noticed, and there's a lot more talk about elementals around just even in the last 12 months, and I just wasn't sure what your take on it was, because I don't think I've come across anything that I would consider an elemental as yet. I mean, I've come across plenty of other things, but no, I just thought it was interesting. So, yeah. Okay. I know you will say, how far have you guys travelled? I know you've said that you've done a little bit of international travel as well as all over the US and stuff. So what are some of the international places that you guys have visited and actually really enjoyed?
Michelle and I jumped over to London to see a friend there. We didn't do any investigations over in London.
No, not in London itself. No.
But then we ended up meeting up with a group over in Wales. So we did a whole entire ghost investigation tour of Wales, including Margam Castle,
Skirtin,
Ancient Rammon,
and a few other castles too. And we were staying at the Cardiff Hotel, which was haunted. And they actually started to like us, so they didn't mind. We wanted to go into the ballroom and do our own investigation. So the manager ended up coming up to us it was one of the last nights we were there, and said, "Okay, we've got the permission. You guys can go in there." We're like. So we got to do a whole investigation in there. In some places that you can't usually go into.
They don't give you access. So
Cardiff, you were obviously in South Wales. Did you ever get up into North Wales?
No, and unfortunately our ancestors are from there, part of our lineage, and we really wanted to, but there just wasn't enough time this time.
Oh, because if you ever get there, go to Conway Castle. Conway Castle is the duck's nuts. It's really good, and there's definitely stuff happening there. And it's only a hop, skip, and a jump away from Anglesey, which is the last stronghold of the Druids. So you can imagine there's a lot of energy around that part of the world. So I've been there. Cool. It's awesome.
We'll have to mark it on our list.
Yeah.
Definitely. We'll get. If I remember, we'll get to that later on. What's on your bucket list? Because we've all got a bucket list of places that we want to go to, and like I said, I grew up in the northeast of England, and I spent a lot of time up and around Scotland as well. So Edinburgh Castle, Edinburgh, that's an awesome place. If you've never been there, that's a place to go and visit as well. You've got the underground vaults there, and I think it's old St Andrew's Cemetery or something like that. It's supposed to be one of the most haunted cemeteries in the world. That's, I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of years old, Here, we only go back a couple of hundred years. We're new compared to you guys in America. But the town I grew up in England, that was around, and the actual town that I grew up in was around in the year 700 AD. So there's a lot of history around there as well, but I'm over here now. I'm not over there, so I don't get to see that much there now. But have you ever been to Singapore?
No. I haven't been to Asia at all.
Oh, there's a place there called the Old Changi Hospital. If you ever get the chance, look up the Old Changi Hospital. It was one of the most haunted places in all of Singapore. There's actually a movie about it, one of those self-made ghosty hunting movies, and there's rumours that I mean, I caught up with I'm friends with the guys from the Singapore Paranormal Investigators over there, and we couldn't get in there on the night that we're there, but I've got to be quiet. We kind of snuck in, but there are signs there that say trespassers will be shot, so it's not you shouldn't really do that. But there's actually it was a hospital, and then it was taken over by the Allies through the Second World War as a headquarters, and then when Japan finally invaded, they took over it and they used it as their base. And there are lots of rooms that were used for torture in there, and there is rumours that there's a hidden room in there. If you can find it, when you crawl through, there's a tunnel that you've got to crawl through to get into this place, because it's that hidden now. It's been sort of sealed off. But if you get into it, and this is what they're saying, and then if you go out the other side, you're actually back in the Second World War, and the Japanese are around. So it's almost like a portal, or never found it. I can't say for personal. That's just a rumour. That they reckon they found. What's interesting is they've actually found artifacts, which, like samurai swords and things like that, which have been dated, and I'm not sure how it worked out, but they couldn't make heads or tails of it because it all lined up with something that was that old, but the condition of it was too new to be that old. And there's a few little things like that in there just to add to the mystery. And now you can actually stay there because part of it has been converted into a hotel. They had to cleanse it several times, but part of it is a hotel now. And then there's still a lot. It's a big complex. There's a lot of the old buildings still there, but if you ever get there, that is a creepy place. In fact, look it up when you get a chance, the old Changi Hospital, and you'll just look at it and you go, yep, there's an energy there straight away.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But what other places are of note for you guys that you really love?
So we did the USS Salem. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's one of the old warships.
No.
Battleship. That is, now you can do tours. They do ghost hunts, and we did a ghost hunt one night. And the coolest thing that happened to us was we were in the communications room, and we were with one of the Navy guys, and he was explaining how they had some stuff out there, how they used to do like the Morse code back in the day over the speakers, and then as things progressed, there was more technology. And speaker starts doing the never done this before, so she's like, oh crap, the battery's probably going dead. Batteries were fine. The thing's on. I kept doing it. We still haven't been able to translate it.
So yeah, I haven't been able to translate it.
But you have to literally take your finger and like turn the top of this around to do anything with it. And something was manipulating that, and the Navy guy goes, that's Morse code. And I think they've had that happen one other time, but that was pretty much a new development for them that anybody's ever had that happen. So that was really wild.
Yeah,
and it was a cool place.
You can hear us on the recording because my recorder was on during the whole thing. You can hear Squirrel going, oh, is my speaker dying? That must be my speaker dying. Why is it making that beeping noise? I don't know where that beeping noise is going. And so, squirreling. So then she's like playing around with it, turns it off, takes the battery, changes the battery, and then we put it back on, and all of a sudden you hear, do, 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 and we're like, what is happening?
I know.
So that's when he was like, that's Morse code. And you can hear the recorder goes the whole time, so you can hear it.
Yeah.
And we figured out, like Michelle said, you have to press it down on the actual recorder to actually make that noise. Like it's like a press thing. So they were really manipulating.
Gee, I remember when I was a kid, and I used to have the old toy walkie-talkies, and they actually had a Morse code button on it, and you had to push the button down to get the short beeps, long beeps, and that's old school. I mean, that just doesn't happen in this day and age. It's all,
No.
fandangle stuff now. To pick something up like that's quite interesting, actually, especially in an old ship, because they would have used that, and they used it with the lights, the light flashing to go from ship to ship back in the day as well. So it would have been interesting if somebody actually knew Morse code to try and translate what the beeps and the dashes actually said, because you could have a fairly decent message if you can translate it.
I've been looking for somebody who actually knows it, because the problem is that all of the apps that say they decode Morse code do not decode it. At least I'm not getting anything from it. So I would need somebody who actually knows Morse code to kind of listen to it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Now,
So if you have any listeners out there,
Hit us up, please.
we'll put the invite out for you a bit later on. One of the things that I loved about your write-up is your number one rule, and that is always have fun on an investigation.
look at us. Don't we look like we're just so much fun?
I'm just about to say, what are some of the most fun times? You can include cheeky times, you can include absolute ball-out laughter times, anything you want, because I know for a fact sometimes you have an absolute crack up on an investigation. So I want to hear about yours.
Oh, yeah. So we were trying this experiment at Ancient Ramen, and we're trying to think of like basically we would just all think of a word. So it would be collectively, all of us would just concentrate and see if it would actually imprint on the recorder and see if like it was just kind of testing, like if it's really ghost trying to speak to us or spirit, or if it's just us. So our word of choice was orgy.
I mean, the place was built in 1100 AD, like, whatever.
So we all sat around thinking orgy. And we did get
We got
on the
back on the
recorder.
recorder because everyone was laughing. And crying laughing. It got ridiculous. Plus, it's like, 2 in the morning or 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
But we have found the more we get like into silliness or fun or just laughing, we actually get more action. We get more stuff on the recorder.
Maybe the wrong word for
We were
it.
even we were even in a place that we actually changed the entire atmosphere of a room that's usually very dark,
Yeah.
very sad, very angry, to the point where we heard the girl whistling on our recorder, and the whole atmosphere lightened up because we were in there talking to her and laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't do interrogation. So we don't go in and, why are you here? Tell us your name. We don't do anything like that. We get more like activity when we actually just sit around in a group and start chatting away about our lives, about our things, and then they almost want to just join in the conversation.
Exactly. Yep.
That's when we get
That
Where we are at Kim's house, and I feel like when we're just upstairs in our living room, just watching TV, like you'll hear downstairs here like footsteps and things. And
I've got my ghost.
I'm gonna mimic. It's always fun.
no, I'm actually. I like the fact that you said that as well, because I've found the same thing. I've been at places and I've seen investigations where people go, "How did you die? How did you do this?" They're not going to want to talk about things like that. And what I've always said is, usually just before you pack up, you guys will be talking amongst yourselves and this, that, and the other. That's when all the activity happens, because when you interact amongst yourselves, they want to see what's going on. They want to get involved, and it's interesting. And now my wife, she's a sensitive herself, and she's still learning to grow her skills and stuff. Now, a few years ago, when COVID hit, we went for a holiday down to Hamlin Bay, which you probably wouldn't remember that, but that's down where all the stingrays come in and everything like that. And we were out there in the pitch dark, and I was doing astrophotography, getting the galactic core and everything. And then I'm standing in was trying to stand and flashlight pause hold because it's a 10-second exposure and things. And my wife going, "You do realise you've got several spirits around you trying to look through the viewfinder to see what's going on because they don't know what the camera is." And it's when you're doing things that you don't even think about that interest these kind of spirits and everything. And I do think when you watch a lot of especially some of the bigger shows, which we're not going to name names, but the one that started off with 3 people, then more people got involved and this, that, the other. And then there's a whole lot of drama with that show that we're not going to go into, but they would provoke a lot. And I don't think there's a place for that. I mean, sometimes when we'll do a prison, like Fremantle Prison, you remember Fremantle Prison?
Yes.
It's in Fremantle. We were the first team to be allowed in there overnight, and we've been in there a couple of times overnight. And it's interesting how they tend to react to what we're doing, and we will sort of not provoke, but like we'd have a set of keys that you jangle and as you walk down just to see if there's any reactions to things like that. Now, what was one of the interesting things about that was we had one security guard with us, And at about 2 o'clock in the morning, it was a February morning, so it was like stinking hot. And we all went out the back for a bit of a break. All the geese set up inside. And we're sort of watching the guard towers and things like that. And we said to the security guard, I said, why doesn't your mate come down and say hello? And he goes, what mate? And I said, the guy up there in the tower, you can see him walk, you can see his silhouette walking backwards and forwards. And I'll tell you what, he was an African guy. He went whiter than me. And he said, I'm the only one on. And then we're all just stopped watching this guard walking up and forward. I said, has anybody got a camera? We all rushed for cameras, came back, and it was gone. So it's when you least expect it that these things happen. And then unfortunately for the security guard's situation, it changed because he handed in his notice the next day. He goes, I'm not going anywhere near that again. So he thought he was going to be in there on his own, but when he saw that, it actually freaked him out. And that leads me to my next question. What is the most freaked out you've ever been in an investigation of your own?
Yeah, it's funny because we went to Joliet State Prison in Illinois here. That was quite a cool investigation, but I remember we saw in the tower, remember there was something up there walking by the lights, and they're like, there's nobody up there because nobody can get in there.
Wow.
But we were walking through, taking the tour during the day, and we're walking through the yard where I guess they would do their outside time. You can honestly say getting shivved really sucks. I got shivved in the side and I buckled over. My side was red and it hurt so bad. It felt like I got stabbed.
Yes,
for real.
I was standing behind her, and then she lifted up her shirt, and I had a picture. I took a picture of it because it looked like this red mark, like she had this red circle that created like right on the
where your kidney is.
Yeah,
where your kidney would be.
So someone didn't like her much there.
Well, I think it's just because I'm sensitive. I do pick up on things, and sometimes stuff like that does happen. Because I will get really sick or really dizzy sometimes. I felt like I was being hanged in certain places. Like sometimes I tap in too much to the energy. But that was shocking. That really wasn't. I mean, we got screams on recorders that night and saw shadow figures. Like prisons are crazy places to investigate. Old prisons.
And we've done Ohio State Reformatory as well. This one goes and runs marathons there, which I don't even understand.
That's the Shawshank one, isn't it?
So if I'm running, it's because something's chasing me. She does it for fun.
What? Hang on. Did you just say she runs for fun?
Yeah.
Do you want to just slide out of frame for a few minutes? No. We don't have fun runners on this show. Jeez.
Exactly.
No, there needs to be a lion chasing me.
There is this area upstairs in the Ohio State Reformatory where when things started to get really crowded there, they ended up just putting a bunch of people in one attic space. And there's still the signatures on the walls. There's like all of this, it was like sadness and anger. Like as soon as you walk up, it was oppressive. It was so bad. And I think they had almost 40 people in this enclosed space from all types. So it was a reformatory originally, but these were bad people too. They put them all together in that one area.
There was a prison that burned down a little ways away, and they moved them, and they were murderers and rapists and nasty people, and they just put them all in this attic space, which it's freaking hot up there in the summer because we were there in the summer, and they would lock them in there.
And see what happens. And we did a session up there where we were sitting, so we would sit in just a circle, and I kept on seeing something from behind me. There were like shadows just everywhere, but I don't usually get scared. Like Michelle said, we've grown up with this, so for us it's just a normal way, I guess now. That was the first time in my life I actually felt so sick to my stomach and so afraid that I wanted to get out. I felt afraid for my life.
And they also started throwing little pebbles at us.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I think it was just me and you. Yeah. It was just the two of us up there. We shut the doors, and I could see somebody pacing down the other end. Yeah, they were flicking pebbles at us from up high. There's nothing there. And we finally got to the point, we saw something running behind us. I'm like, we gotta go. I don't like it up here. Like, we really have to go. But that was one of the only times we really got freaked out like that.
Ooh.
And on the prison theme, like, so I went to Eastern State Penitentiary by myself, and then same thing happened to me, like the chain gang, like, you know, I got shanked. So, but yeah, I was walking through death row, like, and then so I was just walking through by myself, and I had my camera going, and this is like when they would do Eastern State, like, used to do like night tours, like, so you can go there and just walk around. But yeah, I was going through it, and I had my recorder going, or on the phone. And then as I turned the corner, same thing that happened to Michelle. Like, it's like you feel like you're just like, I thought I was like, oh god, I gotta go to the hospital. I gotta find out like a volunteer. Like, I'm having a kidney stone problem. And I walked out of the building and I was fine. Like, so but it was like that same, like, it hurts enough, like you keel over. And then I left it, and then I played back that recording or the video, and you see me turning, and then you hear help, like this little help, and I was like, and I wasn't saying help. I needed help, but but that was crazy. It was wild.
I'm so jealous of you guys, all the places you've got where you can go. It's absolutely awesome. All right, so what we've done, we've talked about a lot of the places where you've been, and a lot of the interesting things that have been happening, and I like your train of thought on some of them. Next question is, what do you guys have planned over the next 6 and 12 months? What big things do you guys have coming up? Locations or things that you can say, or like things that you can't say, you don't have to talk about, obviously.
No, we want to do, we're probably going to set up something with Wilson Castle again. That's actually in Vermont. I don't know if Squirrel sent you the pictures, but that's where I got the gentleman in the mirror. There's a very odd room there, so we wanted to go back there. We haven't really.
We're planning on going to Tombstone next year in Arizona. We have a friend that lives out there, so we're gonna go out there and do a bunch. Just like, she's out there, so whatever haunted stuff we can do out there, we'll do while we're there.
We're gonna do Gettysburg again. We had a really amazing.
Oh, we had an amazing experience
there. So we were staying at the Balladary Inn, and that was a wonderful B&B. It was beautiful. But Michelle and I went outside, and it was around 2 a.m., I think. Mm-hmm. And we're just looking straight off into the distance, and we both witnessed this. And of course, you're in such shock. This is where, does anybody have a camera?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So you see this mist forming against the trees. So it's a little further out. But in the mist, you could actually see, like, someone riding a horse and soldiers walking, like they would have back then, right? So it was so weird. So Michelle and I are like, you see this? And she's like, we're just in awe. And then Squirrel and our friend Patrick came out.
And we're looking at you guys.
And we're like, do you guys see it? They're like, oh my God.
And nobody had the phone. Like you were saying, nobody had nothing. We're like just staring at it.
But it was amazing.
And then other people came out, and they're like, "Do you guys see that?"
Yeah.
So like, we're all
it was nice. It's nice when something like that is corroborated.
Yeah.
Validated. Yeah.
Validated. One of those words.
Well, I mean, it's like,
we definitely want to get back there.
I would, after hearing what you had to say, but it's true. The best things always happen when you don't have a camera or a recorder in your hand, and it becomes a personal experience. And I think they're the most important ones, because you do get validation for yourself that it's there. And at the end of the day, every team says they're out to get that nice piece of evidence to put out there for everybody. But you know what it's like in the world now. There's so much fake stuff out there, which makes it hard for actual real teams like us doing anything. And there are people out there, as you know, certain drama things are going on at the moment which are trying to bring the whole genre down. So these personal things, you've got to keep them for yourself. And there's a lot of people out there with a lot of really good personal experiences, and that's what you've got to take from it all. You know, yes, it's always good to get something on film, but there's always going to be somebody who's going to try and poo-poo it or say it's not real, and they'll try everything they can to fake it. Only the people that are there at the time know it's the real thing. And what you were talking about, oh man, I would love to see something like that. You know, we just don't have the history here. There's a place where we go called Fairbridge, and we've been out there and we've had dealings with a spirit, and we've actually got some really cool footage from here to the point where it affected everybody on the team and everybody that was there that night. Some of them said they won't go back to this particular building that we were in. And the history on that is there was a massacre there, or they called it the War of Pinjarra, which is where the native Australians, the Aboriginal, when they came out, and then when white settlers came in, there was this big war, and wherever anybody was killed, they were just left. And there's a lot of history of paranormal activity out there. We've been out there, and we've got so much stuff. But again, a lot of things we won't share with everybody just because of the fact that it's for us. If we find something that we think is worthy, I mean, like I said, a lot of stuff we do is residential cases, and we've got a kicker residential case on at the moment which would rival pre-Amityville type stuff. There's some very similar kind of things. I can tell you a little bit about it off air, but I'm not going to say anything on air, obviously. But I just thought we're just about out of time. Do you guys want to tell anybody where they can contact you or where they can catch up with you guys? And
So right now we're on Instagram at Soul Sister Supernatural. We are also on Facebook at Soul Sister Supernatural. And we're working on this. The YouTube. We're working on the YouTube. So hopefully by the time this airs, we'll be a little bit more in that direction. So
we want to start posting a lot of our, like you said, I mean, evidence can be, debunked and all of that. And we're good with that. We don't care about the naysayers. Like you said, we're doing this for us. But there are people out there that I think that would appreciate some of the results that we have gotten and some of the evidence. So we do want to kind of do that with our YouTube channel, is just kind of like post some of our evidence. Also just do some of our funny times, right? So when we're in a place at 2 a.m. and we just have a silly session, stuff like that. So it'd be fun.
Just before we go, talking about that, do you remember Albany in Australia? Right down the southwest tip?
Yes.
That's where I was.
Oh.
Albany.
Well, Albany is a very haunted location as well. And we were out at the old quarantine station there. Now, we go there every year. And it kicked off for us literally as soon as we were there. We thought we'd have a barbecue before we got started. And it all started straight away. Things were getting thrown around and everything. And by the end of the weekend, we were in the morgue. My wife and I were doing a session. Oh, that sounds wrong, doesn't it? My wife and I were in the morgue, and we were doing an EVP session, and right next to the slab. That's the lab. And we were starting to get some stuff coming through, and we were testing out that ghost tube thing just for what it was. Now, it's not that I'm talking about. What happened was I turned around, and we were starting to get a few things come through, and I turned around and I actually said, if you want us to leave, let us know. I was expecting someone to come through on the voice, or one of those kind of things. No, my torch started flashing. Not turning on and off. Flash, flash, flash.
What the?
And then, and then flash, 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 like it with intent. And my wife goes, was that the torch?
Okay.
And as I went, yes, it went flash, flash, flash. Okay. It's time to go now because we don't want to upset them, but at the same time, you don't want to go because we've had a lot of stuff happen. We've actually had people who shouldn't really have been there because they weren't psychically protected enough for it, and something's basically got on them, and they've been a bit messed up. And also, we had a lady there a couple of years ago. She's part of my team, and she needs a knee or a hip replacement. She can barely walk, and something got into her head. And she came bloody belting out of there and running down the hill like a bloody Olympic sprinter. This is a lady that surgically needs knee and hip replacement and everything. And she came out there running faster than I can bloody run. And then a bit later on, when she came back, she came back to her own sort of senses. She was in a lot of pain because that had obviously done something. But for that time when she was coming out of there, there's nothing. So it just proves that there are things out there that can affect us both physically and mentally. And what I find is I go into it with a very similar mindset to you guys. I'll go in everything we do. We've got to have fun while we're doing it. But we do have serious stuff that we need to get done at the same time. But you can do it in a fun way. And I think that keeps my vibrations up at a certain level that I'm like Teflon. Nothing can stick to me, you know. But I still do all my things before we go, because obviously you still got to, you know, due diligence and things like that. But yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in there as a little thing as well. So before we go, do you have anything else that you would like to tell everybody about? Oh, big question.
A lot of them, right?
Quite a bit of it, yeah.
I mean, there's so much. We could do this for 3 hours. There's so much fun that we've had on our investigations. And like you said, we are lucky because of our location. And even, I mean, Squirrel lives in New York or Long Island, but she's got a bunch of things that we're going to go see down on her end. But then she usually comes to our end, which is Rhode Island, which obviously we've got the Conjuring House, but we've got so much history just in our town. I've got like the Cumberland Monastery that's right down the road. They have the, it's the, what is it? The, oh gosh,
Nine men's
Nine Men's Misery, I believe. Where, you know, white men were actually slaughtered by the Indians because they were trying to take over the land, and there was just bodies there. So it's in the woods, but I'll take my dog over there. And then the Cumberland Monastery is now a library, and that was actually instigated by ghost hunters at one point. So we've got so many things that are just so close by, which it's nice. Like Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine,
New Hampshire.
it's unlimited.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what.
We can't go to the Amityville Horror House, like, but I'm literally 40 minutes from the Amityville Horror House, like, so I was like to the girls, like, we can drive by. I was like, I usually stalk it.
She stalks
I
it.
do.
Technically, you can go there. You just might be slightly against the law, but you can do it. Create a whole other story for that. But on that, I think, actually, before you do go, Long Island to Rhode Island, how for everybody who's not in America, how long does that take to get from one to the other?
So if you take the ferry, which is like the boat that crosses over the Long Island Sound, it takes about 3 hours from where I live to them. With driving, boat. So it's not too bad.
I did not realize it
Just
was
on the other side of the pond.
No, I'm on the other side of the pond. Not here. I didn't realize it was that big, New York. I knew it was big, but I didn't realize with all the different boroughs or whatever, you know, islands and things like that, I didn't realize it was actually that big. Wow.
I'm like on eastern Long Island, so like to go to like western New York takes me about 8.5, 9 hours. And I'm still in the same state. So it's like crazy.
Jeez. I'd like your guys' train of thoughts. I would love to have you guys back on sometime to share some more stories, and hopefully I'll have both my co-hosts with me as well. So then, well, yeah, it'll go absolutely mental then because they're worse than me. So I don't know what kind of show.
That'll be awesome.
I don't know what kind of show that one will be, but we'll have to set that one up because I know they both really, really wanted to be here tonight, this morning for you, but my co-host in America, it's his son's birthday and they've got a whole load of stuff planned for today, so obviously they couldn't make it. And my co-host Jeremy over here, he's helping a friend out who needs a bit of support, so he's doing that. So we always look out for our friends and family and everything, and I really appreciate your time, and I've had an absolute ball. I hope you guys have enjoyed it.
This has been awesome. Yeah.
And I hope
We'd love to come back for sure.
Oh, that is
And
awesome.
if you're in the States, you'll let us know.
Oh, well, we can plan that in just a few minutes. So I'll do the exits now, and we'll have a bit of a chat as soon as I've done the exits, and we'll go from there. So if you'd like to say your goodbyes, we'll head out.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We will be back on this one again. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and take it easy, guys.
Thank you.